Did he catch it? It looked like the easiest question in football. A tight end in the end zone, 2 feet down, the crowd erupts. But Sunday night reminded us that the NFL's answer to that question is rarely simple. Isaiah likely hauled in a Lamar Jackson pass, the stadium rose, the Ravens thought they'd taken the lead, and for about 10 glorious seconds, Baltimore believed the game had turned. Then the replay came in, and everything changed. Lamar Jackson, still fighting through leg issues all year, threw a perfect ball into the middle of the end zone. Likely secured it, both feet hit, and Joey Porter Jr. ripped it free as the defender tried to wrestle the ball away. On the field, the officials signaled touchdown. On the replay monitors, the call was reversed, incomplete. Instant replay ruled that Likely hadn't completed the third element of the catch. He hadn't had time to tuck, turn, or make an act common to the game before the ball was knocked loose. The touchdown vanished, and in a blink, so did Baltimore's shot at a late lead. Jackson's reaction after the game didn't hide his frustration. "I thought it was as a touchdown," he said. Plain, simple, and true to any player who's ever watched a replay that didn't match what his heart felt on the field. But the refs made the call they wanted. They believed that was right. So it is what it is. There's an honesty there that's almost saintly. He's acknowledging the rule book even as the gut screams otherwise. That's the heavy, complicated weight NFL players carry, the line between what you feel and what the rule book says. And then there's the social media angle. DeAndre Hopkins, who was visibly upset after the play, posted a thinly veiled swipe at officiating and then deleted it. He asked rhetorically, how many steps does one need in the end zone for a touchdown? He took it down quickly. Understandable, given the league's love of fines for criticizing officials, but the tweet captured what fans felt in the moment: dismay, disbelief, and the very modern impulse to vent immediately. Derrick Henry's comment, "It's tough when the game's in the ref's hands," was the locker room version of that same sentiment. When a game swings on a single review, the whole stadium feels like it's been robbed of a collective heartbeat. If you want to understand why the call was overturned, you have to get inside the NFL's catch rubric. It's 3 parts: control, 2 feet or another body part in bounds, and an act common to the game: a tuck, a move to get upfield, a clear transfer to a football-ready position. Gene Steratore and the league's instant replay officials zeroed in on that third piece. They said Likely had control and got 2 feet down, but before he could complete the football move, the third element, the ball was stripped. Mark Butterworth from the league's replay office explained it the same way: control, 2 feet, then the act. Because the third step didn't happen, the rule required an incomplete pass. That's the technical answer, and by the book, it's defensible. But it's also emotionally unsatisfying. Fans and many players watch the live play and see a man in the white jersey with the ball in his hands and think touchdown. Replay removes context. It slows, freezes, isolates, and the game loses the human rhythm. That's the rub. Rules create consistency, but slow-motion resets feel like theft in real time. Why does this even matter beyond the anger and the sound bites? Because it changed a season in an instant. The overturned score wiped out what would have been a go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter. Instead of Baltimore taking the lead and forcing Pittsburgh to chase, the Steelers retained the margin they needed to close. The game ended with the Steelers on top, the AFC North flipping sides, and Baltimore left to wrestle with a result that felt, to them, ripped from their grasp. In an NFL where division games decide playoff fates, a single replay can tilt the entire offseason calculus. And there's the optics. Critics of replay will say it kills the emotion of the sport. Supporters will point out that it corrected a call that, if left alone, would have stood on an incorrect spot. Both sides have merit. The league insists on objectivity. The crowd yearns for the thrill. What fans rarely accept is that the very mechanism designed to make calls right can also make them feel wrong. This is also a leadership test. John Harbaugh's visible anger on the sidelines said a lot about what was at stake. Coaches live in the space between the rules and the ref's interpretation of them. They have to channel that raw emotion into focus for the next series. For players like Jackson and Hopkins, the choice is to stew or to respond. Jackson was measured in his criticism, "I can't do the ref's job." And that's the voice a locker room often needs when the crowd wants to march down to officiating headquarters with pitchforks. Now look forward. The Ravens have to answer on the field. They lost the game, and the momentum swings hard in a division fight with so little margin for error. This reversal is a clear what if that will live in highlight packages and Twitter timelines. But the team's reaction in the next 48 hours will matter more than the grievance. Will Baltimore treat this as an injustice and let it fester, or will they use it as fuel? The good teams use these moments to sharpen focus, not to perfect grievance. There's also a bigger conversation about the language of the rules. The act common to the game clause is maddeningly subjective. 2 feet down is simple. Control is simple. What counts as a football move is fuzzier. Do we want a roster of clearer definitions that reduce ambiguity, or do we accept that some judgment calls will always exist? The answer shapes how many games end in tears and how many in triumph. But here's the human center of it. Isaiah likely probably felt the catch was his. He was robbed, at least by the scoreboard. DeAndre Hopkins blurted a tweet that made him feel better for 20 seconds and cost him nothing but a deleted line of text. Lamar Jackson still believes in his receiver and in the team's path forward. The refs made the call the protocol required, and the league's replay boss backed them up with the mechanics of the rule. Reality, at that point, is a ledger of evidence and a room full of disappointed men. If you want the bottom line for your viewers, this was replay at its most controversial, technically correct, emotionally raw. A reminder that the line between a catch and an incompletion is not just about feet and hands. It's about timing, rules, and the unforgiving nature of modern officiating. Finish with this thought. Football is part mathematics, part ballet, and part street fight. Replay tries to make the math perfect, but in doing so, it sometimes punts the ballet and the struggle into slow-motion doubt. For the Ravens, Sunday night will be remembered for what was taken away. For the Steelers, it will be remembered as the break that kept their division hopes alive. And for everyone watching, it's another chapter in the never-ending argument about whether replay helps the game or simply makes it harder to love in the moment. For a few glorious seconds, the Ravens and their fans believed they'd grabbed the lead. Lamar Jackson lofted a perfect throw to Isaiah Likely in the end zone. Likely clasped it, got 2 feet down, and the stadium erupted. On the field, the officials signaled touchdown. On the replay monitor, the mood changed. After review, the call was reversed. The league ruled Likely never completed the third act of the catch before the ball was ripped out. The result, no touchdown, no lead, and a swing that cost Baltimore dearly. AP News Jackson's post-game line cut straight to the emotional core of the moment. I thought it was a touchdown, but the refs made the call they wanted. He didn't hide his disbelief, but he also didn't invent conspiracy. He framed the decision as something the team had to accept and move on from. That sentence, half anger, half resignation, captured the locker room vibe. Hurt, confused, but forced to keep playing. Yahoo Thethau, DeAndre Hopkins took his frustration public and then seemed to remember the NFL's fine policies about criticizing officials. He posted a pointed message tagging officiating, then deleted it shortly after. 13 years into this league, how many steps do you need in the end zone for a TD? The post's deletion only made the moment louder, a private anger that went briefly public, then vanished like the touchdown itself. Yahoo Thethau. The league's replay office explained its reasoning in clinical terms. Mark Butterworth, the NFL's vice president of instant replay, walked reporters through the rule. Possession, 2 feet in bounds, and then an act common to the game. A tuck, a third step, turning upfield. In this case, he said, Likely had the first 2 elements but lost the ball before completing the third, so the reversal was correct under the rule. That technical explanation doesn't make it feel any less gutting for a team that thought it had seized the moment, but it's what the rulebook requires. The Washington Post on TV, the split screen felt theatrical. Tony Romo and other booth analysts argued the visual evidence supported a score. The crowd's roar and the on-field signal reinforced that instinct. But the replay standard isn't about what looks right in the moment. It's about the microscopic standard of proof required to overturn. To Ravens players and fans, that distinction is academic when the scoreboard reads the other way. To officials, it's the only language they can use. Sportskeeda